I think Bobrovsky thinks he's supposed to should get a deal like that. And I can understand someone else gets it and you think you're just as good, you should get it too. But Blue Jackets management, I don't think wants to put that kind of money into a goaltender who's, I think, is already 30 there. And that's totally understandable as well. Yeah, he's 30. So, I mean, to give him an 8-year deal at $10 million a year to play a goaltender till he's 38 like that kind of hamstrings your team. And so I think that's part of where that came from. Now, what I want for him and what he should want for him is to have a great playoff run that he can then parlay into somebody overpaying him. Because it's kind of been made clear that it's not going to be in Columbus. There's a certain reality to that. As a fan, sometimes it's hard to let players go. And I know a lot of fans are going to be upset the day Bobrovsky signs with somebody else, but on my side of things, and when I talk to Blue Jackets fans about it, I talk to them like, yeah, let's enjoy it for what it is, and then his time with us will be done, because there's just not that going to be that constant connection between us there. So,
well, that's the thing, though. I mean, all these trades, all these additions, it might be for nothing if he sucks in the playoffs, which he has in the past.
No, you're entirely right, and that's the tricky thing, and it's part of the reason that the Blue Jackets don't want to pay somebody $10 million a year to be the goalie. And honestly, I don't think it's even just Bobrovsky. I think that's a theory running just for goalies in general, because you just don't. The thing is, the goaltending position is so volatile that to put a bunch of money into that, when a goalie could just have a hot streak and you fly through the playoffs, or a goalie could go bad and then you're awful. I mean, as Pittsburgh fans, you guys have seen both sides of it with your two most recent really good goaltenders.
Yeah.
Marc-Andre Fleury at times won a Stanley. I mean, just looked great. And there was other times where it seemed like he couldn't stop a thing. And then last year he took the Vegas Golden Knights to the Stanley Cup final.
Yep.
Matt Murray has won 2 Stanley Cups, and at other times just looks lost and confused. It's so weird. So, I mean, when you're trying to, the trick for an NHL GM, and what has to be maddening, is a goalie who plays 82 games in a regular season in one 4, 5, 6, 7 game series can either make a legacy or lose it on something that's a very small amount of work that they do. I mean, it's the equivalent of, if I evaluate you, if I were to look at your job performance for the year, whatever somebody's day job is, and you do a great job 90% of your year, and then I pick 1, 2, or 3 week span where you didn't do a good job, and I'm like, look at those 3 weeks, you're bad at what you do. It's tough because for hockey players, that playoff is such a small period of time compared to what they do totally. And part of it, too, is Bobrovsky, his recent playoff runs have been against the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Washington Capitals. 2 teams that can shoot. 2 teams that have incredible offensive talent.
Yeah.
2 teams that you have to be able to keep up with, and the Blue Jackets haven't always been able to do it. And even when they can, like last year, we were up on Washington 2-0. Then in Game 3, it goes into, I think it was double overtime, and the Capitals won when a puck bounced in off a Blue Jacket skate.
And wasn't there a point where somebody hit a post and it could have gone 3-0 Blue Jackets?
Yeah. That game was so heartbreaking as a Blue Jackets fan, because when the series is 3-0, the odds of that other team coming back are just so insignificant. And there were multiple times in that overtime where it's like, you can do it, and it didn't happen. And it's part of the maddening part of being just a hockey fan in general. It's just that random aspect of the game. Something I say on my show all the time when I'm talking to people is, when you're thinking about hockey, your main goal is to get yourself into the playoffs, to try and get as much talent as you can, and just hope for the best odds, because once you're in the playoffs, things are nuts. You don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, last year when the Capitals beat the Penguins and then went on and won a cup, it was an overtime goal. The Penguins had other chances in that overtime. And then it makes you think, going back over the years, how many times the Penguins had beaten the Capitals in overtime or off a goal that was just kind of this kind of odd, fluky kind of goal.
Right.
Well, if one of those had gone differently, how different does everything look?
That's right.
it's a tricky thing as a sports fan because we're so results oriented. We want to be the team holding the cup at the end, but it's not always the team that played the best. It's the team that just happened to have the puck, that puck luck happen at the right time. But what the Blue Jackets have been trying to do with all this is the lessons that are being learned from these playoff losses is you have so many minimal chances in the playoffs that you want the guy taking that shot in overtime when it's going close to the post. You want the highest skilled guy possible to be the one doing it. So that's why going right into the playoffs, you're like, Matt Duchene, Ryan Dzingel, yes, please. Put them on the roster. Because at this point going into the playoffs, or going into the rest of the regular season, the way the Blue Jackets lineup combinations go, those first three lines they have got wingers and centers. They're going to have guys who have scored 20 goals all over this roster. At this point, I think the number they said today is now, because we traded for two more, we're going to have 7 guys with at least 20 goals going into the playoffs. Wow. And I forget how many years they said it's been since a team had that. And I think the goal was to try and just say, hey, we want as many skilled guys who can put the puck in the net as much as possible all over this place. So it's going to be real interesting. It's going to be exciting as a Blue Jackets fan. And even if things don't go the way we want, I definitely understand the mindset going into it. So I won't be upset if things don't always go great, but I'm excited.
At least you tried. Even if it's for 1 year, if I think that's a dream of every team, of every fan of every team. It's like, you know what, this year we're going for the championship. It's like it's a great thing. It's why you're a fan, because your team has a chance to go to championship, and they've done everything to do that. So that's awesome. But I think Tortorella has to get some credit here, because the team could have, with the Panarin thing and the Bobrovsky, it could have gone south. It could have been a circus, but it sounds like he's kept everything together.
Tortorella has. Tortorella gets a bad rap on the national stage because he will, from time to time, have these, especially when he was with the Rangers, when most of these happened, these little blow-ups with the media, where he would, say something or get upset or get angry. And he's still a little bit colorful. Actually, today there was a press conference, and how a lot of times reporters will put their phones up and hit record so they can record everything the coach says. One of the guys did it, and the phone rang, and Tortorella answered it, and it was the reporter's mother. And he had a little 30-second conversation with her about how he'd rather talk to her than her son, but he'll call you back later and whatnot.
So was he nice about it, or was
he was very nice about it. Yeah,
awesome.
He was cordial and everything. He is a guy who one of his defining characteristics is that he doesn't mind and doesn't avoid confrontation. There are actually stories that in the locker room, whenever somebody had something that was an issue, he would make sure to bring it right up, make it forward, and so it would all be discussed and out in the open. And that was actually cited by Yarmo today. He was talking about the whole situation and asking how it kept forward. And what they would do is they would go into the locker room and they would say, hey, is this becoming an issue? And they would say, is the fact that Artemi's not signed, or is the fact that Sergei's not signed, is that causing any issues or causing people to be not focused on things? And they would just go right at it. And it's one of the strengths of his coaching style, is that when there's adversity or when there's conflict, he has tried to address it straight on. The players know where they stand with him. From everything I've been able to tell from his coaching style and how the players talk about him, he doesn't hold grudges against players. He doesn't, he tries to say, whoever's going to give me the best chance, that's who's going to go in. And he is I think he has done a very good job with this team. And it's the right kind of team for him. Something that's you notice from his history, the younger the team, the better they tend to do with him, because he's good at building from that younger group. And it's another reason I'm happy about this trade deadline, is that for years, if you've gone and seen the list where they tabulate the youngest teams in the league, the Blue Jackets are normally in that top 3 of the list. And there was this sense of, okay, we're always, one of the younger teams who've always got a lot of the young talent. And this year they finally said, okay, fine, all that, we don't need any draft picks for that year because there's so much young talent here and in the minors. We can just ship out all the draft picks and get established guys and make a run. And I think what this has done after a whole year of having to deal with the Artemi question and the Bobrovsky question, it has instilled that locker room with this sense of, okay, we have all the tools we need. We're going to go for it. And I think one of the ways it actually helps as well is between Matt Duchene trying to get him re-signed, and there's already been expressed interest that they want to re-sign Dzingel, which is he's already kind of on board a little bit because Dzingel actually went to school at Ohio State.
Yeah.
He's familiar with the place. He loves the city.
He knows the zoo.
Yeah, he knows the zoo. Yes, he has been. Yes. But I think what they're seeing, because their first impression of the team is this is a team that wants to win. And both of those guys are coming. I mean, the whole reason Duchene wanted out of Colorado is he wanted to go somewhere that would win. And then when he ended up in Ottawa, everything fell apart.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be an attractive place for people after seeing something like this. Because I think players are going to realize if I sign in Columbus is going to be making decisions about wanting to win hockey games and trying to go for things. Now, obviously, this isn't going to be an every year sort of thing. Jarmo Kekalainen values, his scouts too much and wanting to draft too much. But if the time is right, they will make that decision. And I love the message that sends. And I think hockey fans in general, obviously Penguins fans probably don't want this, but I think a lot of hockey fans in general would love to see this be successful for Columbus, because so often GMs copy what other GMs did. And can you imagine a trade deadline if next year like 3 teams tried to do what the Blue Jackets did this year? That would be a lot of fun to watch.
It would be crazy. I mean, the NHL trade deadline is one of the most fun days if you're a hockey fan, because sometimes things change so much, and it's just exciting to hear about the news. And yeah, if a whole bunch of teams just went in all in like that would be amazing. Yeah, that would be that would be exciting for sure. So,
well, and it's funny because for years, I mean, they talk about the trade deadline and they talk about it, and one of the things they say is, a team could remake themselves in a day. And for the most part, you never see that. You almost always see tinkering. You almost always see, we picked up a new third line winger or a depth defenseman or something. This year, the Blue Jackets really looked at it and were like, if they can re-sign Duchene and Dzingel, especially if they can re-sign them, the whole team looks different. I mean, not obviously we still have a lot of the same players, but the center situation is different. And even if they don't re-sign them, they go into the free agency market with a ton of cap space.
Yeah.
So whoever is available in what's widely acknowledged to be one of the best in a pretty interesting free agent class, they'll have one of the biggest checkbooks as far as being able to spend. So it'll be interesting one way or another how this is going to work out. I mean, management in Columbus is confident that regardless of what happens, they're going to be able to be good this year and good next year. So it's exciting times here in Columbus.
It's really cool. And if you have an abundance of, good young talent, then you could do this, pretty often. You could trade your young guys for, for rentals or established guys or whatever. So it's not just a 1-year thing. It could be, it could happen other years too. So very exciting.
Yeah. It's one of those things, knowing where you're at in the cycle of a team. And it's, like I was saying, for years, it's this, we're a young team and we got a lot of young players. And it's knowing, we're at the point in the cycle where we have 2 guys who are right about to leave. Let's take a shot. And then from there, we'll be able to load up in free agency or load up other ways. But it's just a different type of just a different type of mentality than I've seen. And that, as we were discussing at the beginning of the chat here, again, you haven't really seen a team do it. You've seen teams do where they do like a big deal to get one big guy, but normally a Columbus trade deadline like last year, we did 3 guys and it was all just kind of tinkering. It was a second line winger and a third or fourth line center and a second pair defenseman. I mean, it wasn't big things, but it was something. And this year, I mean, Ryan Dzingel would have been a big get. Just Matt Duchene would have been a big get.
Yeah.
We got them, and then we got 2 more tinkers after that. So